Chuck Grassley releases a bombshell. In fact, the document about what happened with Hunter, Joe, and Burisma, and Victor Shokin. So we'll be talking about that. And a lot of the things that are surrounding that, they're honestly, in spite of everything that's in there, and I do have my take on what still needs to be proven at this point, the majority of what happened with this document today is that most everybody went further and further into their corners. But we'll go over some of the facts, some of the fiction, and some of what this means as we talk about what this is going to mean next for our political structure and for the Biden family. In other news, RFK Jr. has a hearing in front of Congress to put censorship and misinformation at the center of the political fight, and the left tries to censor him. So that's fun. We'll be talking about what's happening there, what goes on with this. People magazine uncovers a deep plot and a conspiracy by with McCarthy to expunge evil Donald Trump's impeachments. And the usual players come in and offer their opinions of it. We'll talk about what's there, what's real, and what's fake. And Derek Chauvin asked the Supreme Court to review his conviction. So we'll be talking about that, plus things I like and things that I hate tonight on Contemporary. So strap yourselves in, grab something to drink, get some friends in here, share this out with a bunch of people. And I was the one flying the balloons. I am Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. What's funny about what Mr. Scott says is that the first time I heard that particular mix of the Streets of Rage, I was also driving. And it was really curious because not only could I hear the sirens, obviously, but that particular mix has the radio traffic in it as well. So it was a little bit weird and a little bit off-putting. But yeah, no, that was a part of the song. That was not part of your everyday life. But we have got a lot to go over here today. Chuck Grassley releasing a bombshell, the actual document that alleges that Joe Biden received large amounts of bribery money to make Hunter's legal problems go away and make Burisma's legal problems go away as well. So we'll be going over some of that, some of what this means, and the argument that goes along with that, plus RFK Jr., Kevin McCarthy, and a host of other things, plus the Derek Chauvin thing, which I honestly, I thought that was going to be top story today. I really did. But it's just, we're coming into that news cycle again, where we did have a couple weeks off where everything was really slow, and then it's just, okay, let's do one thing after another, after another, after another, after another. But we've got a lot to go over here today on Contemporary, so tell some friends, get some new people in here, have the discussion. We do check live chat in between topics, and, well, pretty much when you guys throw some up there as well, so feel free to chat on all platforms, YouTube, Twitch, DLive, Facebook, and Rumble. Go check us out on all those platforms, plus Kick as well. We are live on there. Not a lot of people are catching up with that one. I don't know if that one's going to stick around or not. I'm going to keep trying it just to see what happens with it. But check us out on all those platforms, and let's get into it. Before we get started, make sure you guys go check out great programming such as The Daily Ignoramus, The Breakdown with Birkenhoff, The R-Rated Conservative, The Porch Boys, Tweets by Brit, Mr. Behavior, The No Gimmicks Podcast, Silent Caster, Clown World Chronicles with Papa Palpatine, and Overruled with KTZed. Go check out all that great programming as we aim to bring you a better news experience and culture experience as well from the common man for the common man. Stop getting your news and culture from people who wear suits that cost more than your house and people that hate you. Start getting your news and culture from people who are just like you. And let's get into it because we've got a lot to go over here today. We're going to start today, as we always do, in our finance sector today. Mr. Scott also pointing out that Bitcoin is a little bit of a roller coaster right now. So we'll be talking about that as well. But we're going to start with the Dow, which spent its 8th day up today. 35,225.18 points is the new Dow. That is a new 52-week record, by the way. Intraday today, 35,372.77. We will see how long that stays and sustains. The Dow is up 163.97 points, or just shy of 0.5% on the day. Your Bitcoin, as mentioned in the chat, thank you, Mr. Scott. It started to rise, and good to keep in mind that this is pretty much the start of where Contemporary started yesterday. It rose and it rose and it rose overnight and into the morning hours, and then dumped off again intraday today before coming out and finishing out down today, $29,805 and 80 US cents. That is down just shy of a half a percentage point again, 0.44, or down 132.6 US dollars per coin. So a little bit of a drop there. We're not at the on sale point yet, so well, not official financial advice. Buy into Bitcoin whenever you feel most comfortable, but if I'm going to go buy the dip, I'm going to buy a lot more of a dip than that. Your gas prices in the Madison area today are holding steady from yesterday after some wild swings. Some ups and some downs over the past week. $3.40 is your average across the Madison area, with some of the outliers actually catching up with the $3.40. The Isthmus is now up to $3.26 from $3.20 yesterday. The BP entering the Isthmus, that's that stubborn $3.16 that's still holding and holding and holding, and $3.30 at the Shell entering the Isthmus as well. So our gas prices are holding steady right now. Yours are most likely doing the same. These are not your local gas prices. Check your local listings to see where your price point is, but they should be following just about the same pattern as what we see out of these, higher or lower based on your market value and your gas taxes as they go. But gas is a globally marketed commodity, so this should be give or take which direction yours are going. Our finance report today comes from CNBC. Stock futures are a little changed after Dow registers longest rally since 2017 from Alex Herring. Futures were flat Thursday night after the Dow wrapped on a 9th day of wins. Futures tied to the Dow added 14 points, trading near flat. S&P and the Nasdaq were also both near flat. Transportation stocks CSX and Knight Swift fell about 5%, 3% respectively in extended trading after reported earnings that underwhelmed Wall Street analysts. And remember, that is how your stuff gets to you. So those are the latest reports in what's been generally strong earnings season thus far. 73% of the S&P 500 companies that have already reported exceeding analyst expectations according to FactSet data. I don't have the Rumble chat up yet. Let's change that. Still quiet over there. Chime in if you guys got something to say. Always. These are the latest reports of what's been generally strong earnings season thus far, with 73% of S&P 500 companies that have already reported exceeding analyst expectations according to FactSet. The moves in extended trading followed a mixed session on Wall Street. The S&P and the Nasdaq lost around 0.7 and 2% respectively, and the Nasdaq dropping 2% in a day while the Dow was up 0.5%. That's a little bit interesting. The Dow was the outlier of the three, adding nearly 164 points, or about 0.5% for a 9-day rally, the longest since 2017, and its highest close since March of 2022. The 30-stock Dow was boosted during Thursday's regular trading by a strong report from Johnson & Johnson, but slides in Netflix and Tesla shares a day after the companies posted their results weighed on the other two indices in the session. So that is what we see for your finance report. Your layoffs report today comes from Publishers Weekly. Layoffs begin at Penguin Random House as buyout departures come into focus, from Jim Milliot. It has got to be hard to be a publisher at this point. Now, keep in mind with Penguin Random House, a lot of what they are publishing and putting out right now is the classics, is the old stuff that they bought up the rights to years and years ago, or had the rights when there was no such thing as self-publishing. Amazon has kicked this entire market in the ass. and print on demand especially. But we have this from Jim Milliot. Names of some employees who've accepted Penguin Random House's voluntary separation offer are beginning to come out, even as the letter from Penguin Random House CEO Nihar Malavaya confirmed the long-rumored layoffs had become a reality. As you know, the book marketplace has had several shifts over the past years, Malavia wrote in a letter to staff on July 18th. At Penguin Random House, we too have experienced these shifts and changes, especially during the last months. We're halfway through 2023, and while the book market has grown, particularly over recent years, we've also faced significant increased costs in all areas across the board, and we expect these increases, as well as inflation, to continue. The letter continued, we've been taking various actions over the last months to adapt our businesses to these market realities, and I'm sad to share the news yesterday that some of our colleagues across the company were informed that their roles will be eliminated. Everyone being affected has been informed directly in individual meetings. We long sought these to avoid these actions, but unfortunately we could not do so. This was the hardest decision I've had to make as a leader. Our immediate focus is on helping people who are leaving Random House and supporting them through this transition. We will support them with severance packages and outplacement services to assist in finding their next opportunity, as well as notice period of nearly 2.5 months. We also work with them to explore any internal openings that are currently available. So, there we go. No number given off this, but we have another big set of layoffs coming for Penguin Random House. See what you guys are saying. Mr. Scott says hello. Sirens really fuck with people if they're driving. There's something big happening behind the curtains. You can tell by looking at Bitcoin. Yeah, that's been a little bit of a wild swing. Spartan is here. The cat is tearing up the toilet paper. I've heard all kinds of figures. 1 million, 5 million, 10 million. The Raiders need side jobs and the news never stops. That's right. The Dow seems really stale. Yeah, a few months ago, Seawall had mentioned that too in the Discord, that it's, and I've said this too on Contemporary, it's, the swath is broadening right now, but it just seems to hold on. 100 points here, 100 points there, just kind of holding steady between 32,000 and 34,000 points with, yeah, just this whack, these last 10 days bringing it above the 35,000 mark, so. Mogwai says they need a side job. Unfortunately, the news cycle is being written by the Saturday Night Live writers. Some big whale cashed out in Bitcoin. Yeah, that's more of a correction than a move. Well, that's why we watch it every day, too. Mogwai says gas is creeping up in the south. Greatest economy in the history of man. Yes, absolutely. Mr. Scott says the gas here in Colorado seems to be mostly average, which is up from the norm of about 20 or so under average, 20 cents or so under average. By the way, stay safe, Mr. Scott, if you are caught in the storms. I caught that there were some heavy storms going across that region earlier on today, so. Mogwai says, precise the Biden, amen. I mean, praise the Biden, amen. Egon was correct. Print is dead. Grant says, how many times is Ed going to watch the Barbie movie? I don't really watch movies. That's a big part of it. When it first came out, I was tangentially interested to see just what kind of message they were going to kind of bring and how it compared to the propaganda that was going on with it. But realistically, I'm working so much right now. I can't get to a theater. I almost never watch movies to begin with. And I am an outlier in the world. I don't think Margot Robbie is that good looking. Honestly. Serious, true story here. When Suicide Squad first came out and Margot Robbie started hitting it big, I actually thought that she was Jamie Presley for like 6 months. And then I thought Jamie Presley just took a stage name of Margot Robbie to get movie roles. I didn't know that they were different people for, it was more than 6 months. I think it was closer to a year. Mr. Scott says all the good stuff is in print. You will have it on repeat in the Biden wing of the my mansion. Spartan suggests Bitcoin was a CIA project, which is interesting to hear Spartan say that because Spartan is a big part of the reason I do Bitcoin every day, because he kept pushing for it at the beginning of the show when I was still doing the morning show. So that's why it made the lineup. Pink Barbie cowboy outfit, or one of the other Barbie outfits. Maybe a Klaus Barbie outfit. A review of the Barbie movies. Mr. Scott says it's been a really nice 70-degree day today with a few light sprinkles here in Denver. I don't even think she's mid, dude. I think mid is too good for her. I don't know. Her and Jamie Presley look like ducks. Like, when I see the flat of the lips, that's what I always think of. A part of the reason I thought they were the same person for so long. No Barbie collection over here. I'm not a big collector of things, honestly. And that's like anything. I think the thing I've collected the most of, honestly, in the last year is bottle caps. After playing Fallout New Vegas, I wanted to see what 50,000 bottle caps actually felt like, so I started collecting them, and I started drinking glass bottle soda. Sprecher, as we've talked about in Things I Like and Things That I Hate before, is one of my favorites. And they have started putting that out in cans, but I do prefer the glass bottles, partially because I prefer any soda in a glass bottle, and partially because then I get the caps too. That's like the only thing I've collected. I was poor for a long time, you guys have to remember. So there were better things to spend my money on than collectibles. And now I just don't have an appetite to buy anything. Barbenheimer meme got its own entry into Wikipedia. I have been seeing the Barbenheimer meme, and it's hilarious, by the way. Alright, let's get into the news of the day. Let's get started. Kanekoa the Great over on Twitter starts the conversation today, breaking Senator Chuck Grassley released the FD 1023 form, alleging that Mykola Zlochevsky, Burisma's founder, paid a $5 million bribe to each vice president, to Joe Biden, and Hunter Biden have Ukrainian prosecutor Viktor Shokin fired. Hunter was reportedly hired by Zlochevsky to use his political influence to halt investigations into money laundering. In 2018, Biden admitted to pressuring Ukraine's president to fire Shokin, who was investigating his son's Ukrainian energy company using the threat of withholding a $1 billion U.S. loan guarantee. Yeah, we all remember that one. I went over there, man, and I told him, you either fire this guy or you're not getting the $1 billion, man. Son of a bitch. The next day I got fired. I got an Arrow Garden for $50. Just came in the mail. What is an Arrow Garden? You mentioned that a couple days ago too, and I was going to look it up off stream, and I didn't. I was starting to Google that, and Aerotech came up. Fuck those people, by the way. What is an Arrow Garden? Best indoor garden. Healthy habits start here. Oh. I've done something like this, except I didn't use an Arrow Garden. I had grow lights from doing carnivorous plants in an apartment that had absolutely no southern exposure. So I got grow lights for that, and I just use milk jugs. But this is quite fancy. I like this. Maybe I should have one of these. Or 10. I don't know. Most of the gardening stuff right now is at my parents' house, and it's all outdoors while I search for a home of my own. But that is what that is. That's interesting. I like that. Alright, back to the news. That's the Rumble tab, not this one. Yeah, it's a little mini hydroponic system. Mr. Scott says, now I gotta figure out what I'm gonna grow in it. Grant, with the obvious, grow food in it. Mogwai says, hello, my name is Hunter Biden. You have my Coke. Prepare to be bribed. Haha. I've never seen that movie, and I get that reference. Okay, anyway. In 2020, Ukrainian officials seized $6 million cash bribe linked to Zlochevsky, aimed at stopping an investigation into Burisma's founder. The bribe was found in the form of $100 bills wrapped in rubber bands and held in plastic bags. So there are some redactions in the document, of course. I list all present, including yourself. Do not include the CHS. Really small print, too. So if you guys do want to read this, it is 4 pages. It's unclassified, by the way, too. Authorized for public release by Ranking Member Grassley, Chairman Comer. But this goes, and we've talked about this before, but there's the cash. In untraceable $100 bills. But if you guys do want to have a look at this, this is already in the Discord. I will pop it in the chat for you guys as well. Oh, you absolutely can grow flowers. You're right, Grant, but you should grow food. That's the thing. So if you guys want to read the document, again, we talked about what was supposedly in this document when the existence of it was first brought out. And, you know, again, Marjorie Taylor Greene coming out and saying, oh yeah, this is what was in it. And was it Marjorie? Yeah, it was Marjorie, and made her big House floor speech over what all was in this document that was unclassified again. And essentially this does confirm everything that Marjorie Taylor Greene said. Let's read from CNN. Grassley releases the internal FBI documents about unverified Biden bribery allegations. And CNN's got to put that in there too, by the way. It's unverified! Thank you, Foundations for Building in African. I don't know what the rest of your screen name is, for joining us over on the Instagram side. This is from Annie Grayer, Marshall Cohen, and Jeremy Herb. Chuck Grassley of Iowa released an internal FBI document containing unverified allegations. Joe Biden was involved in an illegal foreign bribery scheme. The FBI had previously allowed members of the House Oversight Committee to privately view, but not to obtain, the unclassified FBI document known as an FD 1023. Republicans, including Grassley and House Oversight Chairman Jim Comer, have been pushing for the FBI to publicly release the document, which the Bureau has declined to do. Grassley said he was able to release the document himself because of legally protected disclosures by the Justice Department whistleblowers. The 1023 form memorializes claims that an FBI informant, but it doesn't provide proof that the allegations are true. They're actually completely correct on this, by the way. Republicans, though, have seized on the unverified material as part of their broader investigation into the Bidens. Well, I mean, if there are allegations here, then they should be investigating this. This is... like, if this is true, this is government-ending stuff right here. So, wouldn't you think that they should be investigating this? I do. I'd like to get to the bottom of this. But that's not convenient for the CNN narrative, you see. The FBI document indicates the informant provided the information to federal investigators in June of 2020, but was describing meetings and conversations dating back to 2015. The FBI document says an informant described a 2016 meeting where Mykola Zlochevsky, the CEO of Ukrainian energy company Burisma, claimed that he had made 2 $5 million payments to the Bidens, though he didn't specify who received the alleged bribes. It cost $5 million to pay one Biden and $5 million to another Biden, Zlochevsky told the FBI informant at a 2016 meeting in Vienna, according to the document. The informant, whom the FBI has described as a highly credible, was not able to provide any further opinion as to the veracity of the claims, according to the FBI document. At the time of the informant's meeting with Zlochevsky, Hunter Biden was on Burisma's board, earning $50,000 a month. But there is no evidence Joe was involved in his son's work for the Ukrainian energy company or ever received any payments. You know how this would be editorialized if this was going the other way, by the way. Good, by the way, on CNN, because this is how you're supposed to handle the allegations, no matter how you feel about the person that's in there. Allegedly, unverified, investigation. But if this was the evil orange man, or, if we go back to W, or if CNN was around during HW's tenure, or Boehner, Paul Ryan, or anything like that, we've got this document. This is unrequited proof that this person took that. I mean, people are taking the word of the government that there were nuclear secrets in Donald Trump's bathtub because the government told them so. What's funny about that is I called some jackass today who called all this hearsay, which technically it's not hearsay, but called all this hearsay. And then got all up in a huff when I told him that the contents of the document that Donald Trump was waving around in Bedminster is also hearsay. House Democrats previously released a transcript of separate private comments by Zlochevsky made to former Rudy Giuliani ally Lev Parnas that contradict the notion that he ever paid Joe Biden. According to the transcript, which Parnas provided to Congress in January 2020, Zlochevsky stated that no one from Burisma had any contacts with VP Biden or people working for him. While Hunter was on the board, Zlochevsky also said that Joe and his staff had no involvement in the business dealings of the company. In statements to CNN, Comer accused the DOJ of seeking to bury this record. To protect the Bidens, and Grassley thanked the brave and heroic whistleblowers for enabling him to publicly disclose the material. White House spokesperson Ian Sams said in a statement to CNN, "It is remarkable that congressional Republicans, in their eagerness to go after President Biden regardless of the truth, continue to push claims that have been debunked, I'm going to debunk for years, and they themselves have cautioned to take with a grain of salt because they could be made up." Jamie Raskin of Maryland, the House Oversight Committee's top Democrat, said, releasing this document in isolation from explanatory context is another transparently desperate attempt by committee Republicans to revive the aging and debunked Giuliani-framed conspiracy theories, and to distract from their continuing failure to produce any actual evidence of wrongdoing by the president, even at the cost of endangering the safety of FBI sources. Now, let me check the chat here just a sec. Mr. Scott got some Palisade peaches last week. That's cool. Cracked them open and soaked the kernel for a day, and I'm sprouting some peach trees. Millions of peaches for Mr. Scott. Those probably won't do well in the Aero Garden. Yeah, no, probably not, but you can probably get a good start off of them at least. I actually have quite a collection of seeds. So, little side note off of this, and again, we're going to trail off to the news, which is fine because live chat can take us anywhere that we want to go. And I've already laid out a plan to do so, even if I have to start on a quarter acre here. One of my big plans to do once I buy a place of my own is to actually tree farm. Because I've found that I'm good enough at growing regular crops. I do want to take some time and get some trees started and actually grow trees. I'd like to have a thriving Christmas tree farm by the time I'm ready for retirement. That's what I want to do, sell Christmas trees. Well, I also want to sell liquor too, but, with the insomnia that I have constantly, although this week has been good, I've actually been sleeping really good. But with the insomnia that I have, I pretty much lay awake at night and think about ways to make money. Is there some psychological condition that describes someone who has an overwhelming need to collect seeds? I probably have it. No, that's too dirty for YouTube. I can't do that. I was going to make a I had a girlfriend joke. Oh, what the hell. I had a girlfriend once who had a psychological need to collect seed. It had nothing to do with plants. CNN is doing its best to look like it is better. They're moving into that role that Fox used to fill. Alright. So, as far as this goes, do I believe that Biden took a bribe from Burisma to go and make everything go away and to also get Hunter up onto the board so he could take the time and make all the legal troubles go away? Yes, I do. And there are reasons that I believe it. Everything that I have is circumstantial. That can't be provided in front of a court. But that's the reason that I believe it, not the reason that I say that he needs to be impeached and removed from office. Chuck Grassley still needs to come forward and bring bank records. He needs to have actual evidence. Do I believe it's there? Yes. Do I believe he'll find it? Surprisingly, yes. Do I believe it'll get presented? That I am more wary about. Republicans love to lose. As far as why I believe that Biden did it, that he took the bribe, that he is corruptly involved with the Ukraine, it's very simple. It's the phone call. There was some rumbling and talk about Joe Biden running for presidency. But most people laughed it off as just, oh, well, nostalgia and the Biden admin, the Obama admin and everything else. When we started. The phone call came out. The whistleblower came out. Erica Marshmallow. We can't say his real name on YouTube. Probably still. The whistleblower came out with the phone call, presented it out, and started impeachment 1.0. And the reasoning behind impeachment 1.0 was the fact that Donald Trump was using the levers of government to go after his top political opponent, which is hilarious, by the way, to hear them talk about that now. And that it was corrupt. And he was trying to railroad his top political opponent, who had, and I said this in a sarcasm post earlier today, who hadn't even announced that he was running yet. And then, after the fact, it was a hurry up to get Biden in to the office, and then turn Tulsi Gabbard into a Russian pariah for sharpening her claws into Harris first, and then trying to keep her away from Biden as much as she could, knowing full well that his record being exposed by Tulsi Gabbard would end his political career. Just look what happened to Kamala. And all of a sudden, on Super Tuesday, everybody, including people who actually had a political pulse at the time, most of whom don't anymore because of missteps with the Biden admin, just suddenly cleared the way for Biden to get there and be the top political opponent for Donald Trump. That's why I believe that this happened, and there is more evidence of this out there that Grassley will be able to find. Again, my big concern is, will it actually even be presented at this point? But he doesn't have everything to build his rock-solid case yet. He will need wire transfer records, bank records, and records of how Zlochevsky got his hands on $6 million in cash. There's a lot more that needs to be found. Given the fact that Grassley is releasing this document right now, tells me that there's something still coming down the pipes for this. But I believe wholeheartedly that Biden did take the bribe. Hell, our involvement in the Ukraine right now, which is completely unwinnable, should be enough for people to come back and say, hey, is there something going on between Biden and the Ukraine? That right there should be enough to come back and make people ask a question. Sean Davis, Burisma paid $10 million in bribes to the Biden family so that Joe Biden could make the company's legal problems in Ukraine go away, according to a confidential human source. The FBI tried to hide. A Burisma executive said they only hired Hunter so Joe would help him. The executive said Hunter was stupid, which is a fair assessment, by the way. And the executive's dog was smarter than Hunter Biden. Also, probably a fair assessment. Recall the Democrats in Congress impeached Trump because he asked about this corruption in a phone call with Ukraine's president. Yep, that's what I just mentioned a moment ago. Let's see. Disney's selling them off. Does Disney own CNN? No, they do not, actually. How crazy is the world where I ask that? The hot pepper community is actually pretty cool people. I'll have to look into that. Mocha, I thought peaches came from a can. They were put there by a man in a factory downtown. Republicans love to lose. They only need to show Bob Dole in 1996. Mr. Scott, banana phone. Ring, 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 ring. Oh, that is a good point. Mr. Scott pointed out perfectly. What is everybody having for dinner? And that is on all platforms, by the way. I want to know that. If you are lurking or watching on Rumble, I want to know what you're having for dinner tonight. If you are watching this after the fact, by the way, I want you to put that in the comments section. I want to know what you guys are having for dinner. Your likes and your comments and your live chats all help boost the algorithm for this. So, yes, I want to know what everybody's having for dinner tonight. Thank you, Mr. Scott. I think it's a steak and baked potato night for me. Should grab that and let it get to room temp. I thought about grabbing a steak tonight, but it's just, I know by the time we get to Contemporary, I gotta go take a shower, and I didn't take anything out for dinner tonight. So I grabbed a thing of hamburger from the Quick Trip. I'm gonna mix that with some cheese sauce and have my regular salad. And yeah, by the end of it, I mean, there's just no time to cook a steak tonight. I thought about it though. They had some on sale at the Quick Trip. All right, we got to keep going. We are so distracted. We're not getting anything done today, you guys. From Fox News, Biden's allegedly coerced Burisma CEO to help them pay millions to get Ukraine prosecutor fired, FBI form says, from Brooks Singman. And it just, for me, I want to look at a little bit of the difference in reporting here from Fox, controlled opposition Fox, versus heavily in the Democrat tank CNN. So a lot of this is going to be a review, and I don't usually go over a lot of the review stuff, but it's, for me, it's the reporting that's important for us. So let's look at the propaganda here. Spartan had a chicken wing today and 2 large spoons of rice. He's trying to lose a few pounds. I'm doing fantastic on losing a few pounds. Like, I didn't realize at first, because the way that uniform pants are cut, they still suck, and I still have a little bit of a belly here, but I looked in, I caught my reflection in the window of my truck yesterday, and realized you could see it in my face that I've lost a bunch of weight. That was the first time I realized. And I look at my face in my phone screen while I'm doing this every day, and I never noticed it. Cut the carbs 5 days a week. You'll notice a difference. But do eat normally on the weekends. Number one, well, and everybody's body is different too, but number one, your metabolism will drop to the floor if you just cut the carbs out entirely. And then you'll get lethargic and you won't want to get up and exercise or do anything. But also it keeps your metabolism up, and you know, on Monday, it just starts when you switch over to protein, fats, and vegetables. Your body's still trying to run and burn stuff off as fast as it was trying to burn the sugars off. Yeah, I don't do sugar drinks either because they're full of carbs. I do drink Bang, but that's a 0 sugar one. But that's really the only processed thing that I drink. I mean, this is water with Mio Energy in it. What I have here. It's mostly water at this point. Moko, I did a grilled chef salad for dinner. Grilled chicken, maybe? Everyone knows that eats low fat, cut carbs are fatties. Huh. Half my calories probably come from beer. I like that. Alright, where were we? Joe Biden and Hunter allegedly coerced Burisma CEO Mykola Zlochevsky to pay them millions of dollars in exchange for their help in getting the Ukrainian prosecutor investigating the company fired. According to allegations contained in an unclassified FBI document released Thursday by Chuck Grassley. Grassley said he released the document, which describes an alleged criminal bribery scheme involving then Vice President Biden and Ukrainian business executives, so that the American people can read this document for themselves without the filter of politicians or bureaucrats. And I do encourage you to read the document for yourself, by the way. That's why I put it in the chat. The document in question is an FBI-generated FD-1023 form, which Grassley acquired by illegally protected disclosures by the DOJ whistleblowers, according to the Senator's office. That FD-1023, a confidential human source reporting document, reflects the FBI's interview with a highly credible confidential source who detailed multiple meetings and conversations he or she had with the top executive of Ukrainian national gas firm Burisma Holdings over the course of several years, starting in 2015. Hunter, at the time, sat on the board. Fox Digital reviewed the document, which includes new information, including the identity of the business executive, CEO Mykola Zlochevsky, and the allegations that he was coerced into paying Biden and Hunter millions of dollars to get a Ukrainian prosecutor investigating his firm fired. In the form, Zlochevsky tells the source he has many text messages and recordings to show he was coerced to make such payments to the Bidens. The unclassified document is dated June 30th, 2020, and says the contact with the source was telephonic. That's the other thing that they could bring forward. The bank records, obviously, but also the phone records. Does Zlochevsky have the phone records? Does his carrier have the phone records? Is there a Biden burner phone with the phone records? If you keep me in on, you can probably report on this. I put it out everywhere. I will review after the stream. Because if it's a Anon thing, I don't want to react to it live on air. The New York Post, Biden $10 million bribe. Released Burisma chief said he was coerced to pay stupid Hunter and bombshell allegations. From Steve Nelson. A bombshell FBI informant file describing a $10 million bribery allegation against President Biden and his son Hunter was released Thursday by Chuck Grassley, showing the Ukrainian oligarch claimed that he was coerced into making the payoff. Mykola Zlochevsky, the owner of the natural gas company Burisma, told the FBI informant in 2016 while meeting in a coffee shop in Vienna that it cost $5 million to pay one Biden. Yeah, we read all this already. The federal informant, a Ukrainian American who's been a trusted, highly credible source for over a decade and has paid six figures, according to Grassley, described four conversations with Zlochevsky, beginning with a meeting near Kiev in late 2015 or early 2016 and continuing through a 2019 phone call. The informant said each of his conversations with Zlochevsky occurred in the presence of a man named Alexander Ostapenko, giving the FBI a possible supporting witness. So, some more stuff going on with that. Again, the big part with this is that Chuck Grassley has still a big bar to clear for proof of this. But we're going in the right direction, and he's making it transparent to the American people while he goes. So, we will see what's going on with that. Mogla says, Robin, it's time to go to the Biden phone. Why am I seeing a jitterbug burner phone for Biden? I get the reference because he's ancient. He's got the jitterbug. That's funny. I like that. No. And Dual Helix, nobody gets banned around here. Some of my mods have banned people, but I don't. Like, I banned one person because that person was causing a big ruckus and threatening to come back the next day. And that was the day before I was going on vacation, and Jessica Green was going to be the host for that next day. And while I don't really care what people do off there, they're free to do so and deal with the mods to do so. I was having a guest host, and I did not want her to have to deal with that kind of live chat stupidity. So I banned the dude. And he's one of the only people that's ever been banned on this channel. Because I don't like to do it. I will throw a mute out there if somebody is getting excessive or needs to have a timeout to collect his thoughts or anything like that. But it's the same thing in the Discord. A dox, even a self-dox, or showing your penis is really the only way you can get banned in my Discord. If you drop your own address, yes, I will ban you for your own safety. And especially if you drop somebody else's real name or their address in my Discord, you are gone like that. No questions, no appeals. I'm willing to hear appeals if you do it to yourself. If you do it to somebody else who expects a modicum of privacy to discuss controversial topics in my Discord, and you drop somebody's name publicly, you are gone. I'm not even fucking around with that. Let's skip this one, because that's going to be a review of what we've seen so far today. From the New York Post. I don't want to say too much off of it because it is between you and me, Helix, but I know it was whiskey involved, but no, it was not about the N-word. There was another issue with that. Oh, from the whole system, okay. Let's see. The old BlackBerry, says Mr. Scott. Mogwai says, what if your penis got shown on the floor of Congress by a Georgia Congresswoman asking for a friend? We're actually going to be talking, well, if we get anything done today, we'll actually be talking about that a little bit later, because I've got some update on that. Obviously, of course, at the 1 hour 45 minute mark, we switch over to things I like and things I hate. FBI told Twitter the Hunter Biden laptop was real on the day of the Post scoop, official says. Again, big if true, but we're right now at the point of allegation only, from Stephen Nelson. A senior FBI official told Twitter that Hunter's laptop was legitimate on the same day the Post published the first article in its bombshell reporting series on documents linking President Biden to his son's foreign business deals, according to deposition testimony released on Thursday by the House Judiciary. That confirmation was not shared with voters ahead of the 2020 election, as dozens of former intelligence officials and then president candidate Joe Biden falsely suggested that incriminating documents were Russian disinformation. Somebody from Twitter essentially asked whether the laptop was real, and one of the FBI folks who was on the call did confirm that yes, it was, before another participant jumped in and said no further comment. Now we understand. Laura Demlo, section chief of FBI's Foreign Influence Task Force, recollected in a closed-door deposition Monday, according to a release from the Republican-led committee. The FBI's non-public verification of the laptop occurred on October 14th, 2020, hours after the Post published a story detailing how an email showed Biden met with while vice president with an executive at a Ukrainian gas company, Burisma Holdings, contradicting his claims that he never discussed foreign business dealings with his relatives, which again is going to be a really, 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 really big boon to Grassley's case. So we will see what happens with that. I can just picture that on the phone too. Twitter talking to the FBI because they know that this laptop thing is coming out. Somebody at Twitter saying, well, is it real? Probably looking to see whether or not they need to ban it for political reasons or not. And somebody saying, yes, it was, before jumping up. No comment, no comment, no comment. No, Mr. Scott, you are welcome in the Discord again. And we'll talk about that if you come back on, of course. You're welcome back there, and I'll let you know what actually happened. Because I know COL is the one that did it, and he left a note in the logs too, so I know why he did it. Let's grab one from the Daily Wire. DOJ, FBI, IRS, keep this democracy in check. Democrat snaps during Biden family investigation, from Hank Berrien. Congressman from Maryland excoriated Republicans for their investigation into how the DOJ and the FBI handled the Hunter investigation, declaring those agencies, as well as the IRS, keep this democracy in check. And what have I always said about when Democrats say this democracy? Well, usually they say our democracy, but when they say this democracy, always replace the word democracy when a Democrat says it with hegemony. Let's listen.
Now, here's what galls me. I don't like these attacks on the Department of Justice, the FBI, the IRS, as if they are somehow anti-U.S. agencies. Those agencies keep this democracy in check. It keeps them afloat. They provide the checks and they provide the balances.
They keep this democracy in check. Now, to translate for Kwesi Mufmi, or however you pronounce that name, they keep your hegemony in check. They keep the hegemony of the Democrat Party in check. Keep her from getting away. Actually, I might have that backwards now that I think about it. Now that I hear myself say it out loud, I might have that backwards. Because they don't want to keep their hegemony in check. They want their hegemony to be unlimited. I screwed that one up. That was on me. Let's keep going. Democrat Dan Goldman asked, who cares if Hunter and Gal Luft got money from a Chinese firm? A lot of people. Because they can come back and launder it to the big guy. From Ryan King. A top Democrat downplayed concerns that Hunter received money from the same Chinese energy firm that doled out cash to the indicted informant Gal Luft. Who cares if they had money from the same company? Dan Goldman of New York blurted out during a brief exchange and the House Oversight Committee hearing on Wednesday. Luft has been indicted on 8 counts, including for acting as an unregistered foreign agent of Chinese entities. Throughout the Oversight Committee's hearing on Wednesday on IRS whistleblower allegations, Democrats needled Republicans for taking Luft seriously, suggesting it undermines their credibility now that his indictment is public knowledge. Jim Comer sought to fend off those attacks, underscoring the fact that both Luft and Hunter got money from the Chinese energy firm CEFC. I've never met Gal Luft in my life. All I know he was getting money from the same company that the Bidens were getting money from, CEFC, Comer told Robert Garcia in response to the criticism of the GOP interest in Luft. Garcia then demanded Republicans disclose contacts with Luft, whom he described as a Chinese spy, prompting Comer to ask if Hunter was a Chinese spy because he also took money from CEFC. That's when Goldman chimed in, asking who cares if Hunter and Luft both got money from the conglomerate CEFC. Goldman's remarks shed light on Democrats' mindset related to Republican concerns and allegations of Biden family influence peddling. Again, the hypocrisy is astounding off of this. If Eric and Don Jr. got a bunch of money, or, God, what was the other one's name? Ivanka's old boy. Kushner, Jared Kushner. When they get money from a foreign company, it's the end of the world. It's proof of corruption. It's proof that the Donald Trump family is using their influence to sell out American democracy and our country and sell us to the Saudis. But hey, who cares if Hunter and Luft got money? So that's what we have for that. And that's the Grassley news. Again, this is not the slam dunk that a lot of people on the right and a few libertarian people that I know think that this is, but this is a big step in the right direction of showing that there were problems with the Biden family and bribery and everything else. I think I believe all of this. I think that the investigators need to find the bank ties, the text messages, and a host of other records to do this, but I think that that information is out there. And I do believe that Grassley wouldn't be putting this out there if that information wasn't out there. We will see what happens with this. But this is a big step towards figuring out exactly what's happening in the executive branch right now. Let's see. I saw the pics on the Chans years ago of Hunter's junk. The Bidens are definitely involved with a yuan dollar laundering scheme. James O'Keefe shined a light on part of it with the Act Blue thing. I will come out and fully admit I still haven't seen the Act Blue thing, and Act Blue is one of my big pet peeves, so I don't know why I haven't seen it. That's one of the big things that I hate the most about the Democrat Party and the way that they bait and switch and launder money and shuffle around the shell game and everything else like that is Act Blue. But I have not watched that documentary. I need to. I definitely need to. Alright, let's talk RFK, which we've got some extended video clips for this one here. RFK Jr. hearing puts censorship misinformation fights at the center stage. From the Hills, Rebecca Klar and Emily Brooks. Wasn't Klar the name of those twins that were on all the comedy shows for a while back in the early 2000s? No, I'm sorry, those were the Sklars. And they were in the Oblongs too. They were the voice of the conjoined twins on the Oblongs. A House hearing on Thursday featuring Democrat presidential candidate Robert F. Kennedy Jr. brought the complicated debate about balancing free speech with fighting misinformation to center stage. Some of the debate played out in real time among members of Congress and hearing witnesses. I don't even know who Ryan Dawson is, so there's that. And if I don't know, I'll admit to it. I won't come on. No, I'm totally the biggest Ryan Dawson fan and everything. No, I don't know who he is. The House Judiciary Select Subcommittee on the Weaponization of the Federal Government hearing on censorship started with some early demonstrations of the partisan divide on the issue. Debbie Wasserman Schultz made the motion to move the committee into executive session, closing the hearing to the public over concerns about Kennedy's recent statements on the pinko pox. I'll be talking about that with Thomas Massey a little bit later. She argued the testimony from Kennedy, who said in a video published by the New York Post that the pinko pox was targeted to spare Jewish and Chinese people could defame or degrade people. I still think that was the stupidest statement that Kennedy could have said. I mean, it's being engineered in China, who's having a demographic crisis. Why would it be engineered to spare Chinese people? Especially if it's meant to go after the old and the infirmed, who are taking the money out of China. That just doesn't make sense, you guys. Republicans successfully blocked that motion. Ranking member Delegate Stacey Plaskett of the Virgin Islands also raised concerns with the committee giving Kennedy 10 minutes to deliver his opening statement instead of the usual 5 minutes allotted to witnesses. If you want to cut him off and censor him some more, you're welcome to do it, House Judiciary Committee Chairman Jim Jordan said, eliciting laughs in the room. Kennedy's extensive history of sharing anti-vaccine views online was the center of Thursday's debate over how social media companies moderate content. For his recent comments suggesting the pinko pox was ethnically targeted, the long-shot presidential candidate, the long shot, because The Hill has to editorialize everything, spread vaccine skeptical content on his social media accounts. Kennedy has faced suspensions and removal of content in line with the company's policies. Kennedy said during the hearing that he's never been anti-vax, even though he's frequently been critical of vaccines that shared debunked claims of links to autism. I'm sick. You know what? Let's just hear it from him. We start here. We'll do only a bit of this one here. But RFK gives his opening statement for the subcommittee on the weaponization of federal government and gets roaring applause. So we'll do a little bit at the beginning and a little bit at the end.
I want to put aside my written statement for a moment and address one of the points that was brought up, I think an important point by the ranking member, that this body ought to be concerning itself with issues that impact directly the American people. The rising price of groceries, 76% over the past 2 years for basic foodstuff, the war in Ukraine, the inflation issues, the border issues, many, many other issues that concern us all as a nation. We can't do that without the First Amendment, without debate. When I gave my speech, my announcement speech in Boston 2 months ago, YouTube, I talked about all those issues. I focused on grocery. I focused on the fact that working class people can no longer afford to live in this country. I talked about inflation, all the issues that deeply concern you, and that you've devoted your career to alleviating those issues. 5 minutes into my speech, when I was talking about Paul Revere, YouTube deplatformed me. I didn't talk about vaccines in that speech. I didn't talk about anything that was a verboten subject. I just was talking about my campaign and things, the conversation that we ought to be having with each other as Americans. But I was shut down, and that is why the First Amendment's important.
And I mean, he makes very good points, and Mr. Scott and Spartan are both bringing up the exact same point. And I mean, physiognomy is a thing. I don't like to use physiognomy because, well, I know that it carries some racial undertones, and I do stay out of that culture war argument, but even coming out of some of those, the voice. This guy's not going to be president because he can't give an effective speech that people are going to want to listen to. I mean, neither can Biden, but Biden can at least pretend to have the strength in his voice to do so. Skip to the end so we can hear the thunderous applause.
There is no two people in the country who feel more differently about American politics than these two people, and yet they were friends. Dennis attended his children's basketball games, attended his daughter's wedding. This is what we need, how we need to start treating each other in this country. We have to stop trying to destroy each other, to marginalize, to vilify, to gaslight each other. We have to find that place inside of ourselves of light, of empathy, of compassion, and above all, we need to elevate the Constitution of the United States, which was written for hard times. And that has to be the premier compass for all of our activities. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to raise a point of order.
That was, by the way, a good point that he came out to the end of it. It was written for hard times. I don't dislike RFK Jr., by the way, but I understand who he is and what he is. When he's on point and he's right, but he is still a climate change globalist and an anti-gunner. What else do we have here? Thomas Massey tweeting out, I moved to table Wasserman Schultz's attempt to censor RFK Jr. by going into executive session. We won the vote. Mr. Kennedy was allowed to speak. Why are they so afraid for him to be heard? Well, part of it is his voice. Attached with a Daily Wire article, which I included here, Dems try to fail to censor RFK Jr. at censorship hearing. From Daniel Chayton. House Democrats tried and failed to censor RFK Jr., a Democrat Party candidate for president, at hearings on censorship. Wasserman Schultz of Florida moved to shift the select subcommittee hearing on the weaponization of the federal government hearing on Thursday, not Tuesday, to executive session because Mr. Kennedy has repeatedly made despicable anti-Semitic and anti-Asian comments as recently as last week. The Congresswoman cited a House rule against the testimony found to defame, degrade, or incriminate any person, which would allow the committee an aside to determine whether to allow such testimony during the open hearing. And it looks like there's video here, but it didn't load up, so let's do a reload here. There we go. Now we can watch Wasserman Schultz put the video forward. And yeah, we've already watched the opening statement, or part of it.
Point of order, pursuant to House Rule 11, Clause 2, which Mr. Kennedy is violative of, I move that we remove into executive session because Mr. Kennedy has repeatedly made despicable anti-Semitic and anti-Asian comments as recently as last week. Rule 11, Clause 2 says, whenever it is asserted by a member of the committee that the evidence or testimony at a hearing may tend to defame, degrade, or incriminate any person, or it is asserted by a witness that the evidence or testimony that the witness would give at a hearing may tend to defame, degrade, or incriminate the witness, and it goes on. Mr. Kennedy, among many other things, has said, I know a lot now about bioweapons. We put out hundreds of millions of dollars into ethnically targeted microbes. The Chinese have done the same thing. In fact, COVID-19, there is an argument that it is ethnically targeted. COVID-19 attacks certain races disproportionately. The races that are most immune to COVID-19 are...
The lady making a motion or a speech?
I've made a motion to move into executive session because Mr. Kennedy's testimony...
Mr. Chairman, I
and
move
his
to table the
previous
motion.
statements-
The gentleman from Kentucky has moved to table.
Mr. Chairman, I ask for a roll call vote on the motion to table.
Well, let me ask the question. The question is on the motion to table. The gentlelady has asked for a roll call vote. The clerk will have to step back for a second. The clerk will have to come in. We'll call the roll on the motion to table, and then we can get back to testimony.
I think the witnesses can sit in the chairs sitting behind.
I'll leave that up to the clerks. If the clerks are comfortable with that, why don't we do that? Maybe we can go right down here.
Mr. Chairman, point of order.
Gentleman from Louisiana.
Is it the custom of this committee to censor viewpoints that we disagree with from witnesses?
Mr. Chairman, I have
That's not a point of
I have
order.
a motion on the table.
There's a motion. The vote's been
Move into
called.
executive
House
session
rules.
because
We're waiting
Mr.
for the
Kennedy
clerks.
What?
is violative of
Waiting
Rule
for the
11, Clause
clerks.
2.
Waiting for the clerks. Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Jordan.
Yes.
Mr. Jordan votes yes. Mr. Issa. Mr. Massey.
Yes, to not censor.
Mr. Massey votes yes. Mr. Stewart.
Yes.
Mr. Stewart votes yes. Ms. Stefanik.
Yes.
Ms. Stefanik votes yes. Mr. Gates. Mr. Johnson of Louisiana.
Yes.
Mr. Johnson of Louisiana votes yes. Mr. Armstrong.
Yes.
Mr. Armstrong votes yes. Mr. Stubbe. Mr. Bishop.
Yes.
Mr. Bishop votes yes. Ms. Kamak.
Yes.
Ms. Kamak votes yes. Ms. Hageman. Ms. Hageman votes yes. Ms. Pasquette.
No, I want to follow the rules that the Republicans made at the beginning of this conference with these House rules, so no.
Ms. Pasquette votes no. Mr. Lynch.
No.
Mr.
They
Lynch votes
pontificate
no.
so
Ms.
hard when they
Sanchez.
do
No,
this, too.
because it's violative of the rules.
Ms. Sanchez votes no. Ms. Wasserman Schultz.
No to allowing a witness to degrade and
This is
defame
not speech
others
time.
and violate
Yeah.
the rules.
Get him.
Not have his testimony and degradation amplified
Mr. Chair.
rather than given in executive session.
Ms. Wasserman Schultz votes no. Mr. Connolly.
No to the Soviet Politburo.
Mr. Connolly votes no. Mr. Garamendi.
No.
Mr. Garamendi votes no. Mr. Allred. Ms. Garcia.
No.
Ms. Garcia votes no. Mr. Goldman.
No to hate speech.
Mr. Goldman votes
Oh,
no.
Jesus.
Mr. Gates. Yes.
Mr. Gates. Aye. Mr. Gates votes aye.
Clerk will report.
Mr. Chairman, there are 10 ayes and 8 noes.
The motion to table is agreed to.
A vote ensued after Thomas Massey moved to table the motion, and another Republican, Mike Johnson, made the point of order to ask, is it custom of this committee to censor viewpoints that we disagree with from witnesses? Well, some of our friends on the left wish that it was customary to do so. Kennedy, by the way, is up to roughly 19% support in 2024. He's still not going to win, by the way, but he's one of those where people have had enough. Millennial Other, friend of the show, Mira, points out, and I have not pre-listened to this video, so we'll listen to this one together for the first time, says, take a few minutes to watch RFK Jr. obliterate Stacey Plaskett's unhinged opening statement. Shout out to Thomas Massey for yielding his time to RFK Jr. to refute her baseless smear campaign. Let's listen. Sorry, by the way, we're going to have to hear more solar flare interference.
To you about my opinions on these issues, what you have stated and tried to associate me with through guilt by association is simply inaccurate. Virtually everything, every statement that you just made about me is inaccurate. I have never advised Black Americans not to receive vaccines. At one point you say I'm anti-vax, and that's a bad thing. The other moment you point out that all my children are vax. I'm fully compliant with the vaccine schedule myself, except for COVID. I took flu vaccines for 20 years straight. I have never been anti-vax. I have never told the public avoid vaccination. The only thing I've asked for, and my views are constantly misrepresented, so that the truth of what I believe is not, we're not allowed to have a conversation about that with the American people, which I believe vaccines should be tested with the same rigor as other medicines and medications. You tried to associate me a moment ago with the replacement theory, which is racist.
No, I did not say you
Time
had the
belongs to
replacement
the gentleman
theory.
from
I said my colleagues.
Time belongs to the gentleman from
I denounce that theory. It is racist, and I have never endorsed it or had any association with it. Our film on a medical, by the way, Bill Buxton, who is the Black CDC official who ultimately exposed the Tuskegee experiment, tried for years and years to appeal to CDC to stop it for 40 years. Finally, he got relief by walking into my uncle's office in the building next door. Teddy held hearings and ended the experiment. I remember that very well. And to say that I created a film that encourages blacks not to get adequate medical care is just completely abhorrent.
Don't misuse my words.
It's the witness's time. Do not censor the witness.
I'm not censoring the witness. I'm not censoring the witness. He's still talking.
It's my time, and I've given it to the witness. Do not censor him.
I'm not censoring him.
If the views that you and others have applied to me, I've attributed to me, if they were actually true, I can see why I shouldn't be able to testify here today. Those are not true. These are defamations and malignancies that are used to censor me, to prevent people from listening to the actual things that I'm saying. And I think, ranking member, that we should have a real conversation rather than an exchange of ad hominem attacks. And answer very quickly to your question, the term malinformation was coined to describe information that Facebook and Twitter and the other social media sites understood was true, but that the White House and other federal agencies wanted censored anyway for political reasons because it challenged official orthodoxies. I'll give you one example. I was included in a group called the Disinformation Dozen. And Facebook and others were asked to censor us, which they did. And by the way, my Hank Aaron post, it was taken down. My whole Instagram account with 900,000 people was taken down because of that. Oh, they knew, Facebook knew that the disinformation doesn't claim. And what they said, if the disinformation doesn't came from this very shady group called the Center for Preventing Digital Hate in England, that's funded by dark money, that should be looked into. They claim that 65% of the vaccine misinformation on the internet was generated by those 12 people. Facebook itself said that is impossible. That is false information. We know that not to be true. And yet, when the White House asked them to censor this disinformation doesn't, including me, they did it anyway when they knew it to be untrue.
My time has expired. I yield back.
Gentleman yields back.
That was hard to listen to, but absolutely. And it's not just, by the way, RFK Jr. It's anybody who has a counterpoint to the mainstream narrative. I mean, I've been banned on Twitter before for coming out and doing a self-deprecating joke, but I've also seen algorithmic demotion because I don't fall into line with either of the two parties. It's really hard for them because I know they're looking for other reasons to come back out and throttle me and maybe throw a suspension at me because of the viewpoints that I have, but I do know how to play within the rules, and it's the same on YouTube. I play within the rules as hard as I can, to the frustration of a few of you who are watching. I understand that. But I do play very, very, very tight into the rules that they have forward, including misinformation, which was not a thing until election time this past year. So yes, RFK, as much as it sounds like aluminum foil being scratched across your teeth, is correct on everything that he said in this exchange back and forth. And I'm kind of glad that we did take the time to listen to that. Mogwai says, why does this feel like an NPC old man from New Vegas? I don't know, because he's stumbling over his words and it's all raspy and everything. And I see that we're talking about replacement theory here, which I don't condone replacement theory, but I don't dismiss it either. I am neutral on replacement theory. But the big thing with me for replacement theory is if you want to counter it, fuck more. Have more kids. Have a whole bunch of kids. It'll feel really, really good for however 15 seconds or however the hell long you last. And then you can counter it. That's the easiest way to counter replacement theory. Alright, just a little bit of editorialization here from NPC News. And then we're going to move on to CNN trying to again discredit him. NPC says RFK Jr. helps House Republicans troll Democrats on censorship. The editorialization is disgusting here. But from Alex Seitz-Wald, a familiar partisan script of congressional hearings was inverted Thursday when Republicans praised RFK Jr., while his fellow Democrats called the presidential candidate a menace to society who did not deserve the platform Republicans gave him. The hearing encapsulated Kennedy's unusual campaign, which has been promoted by conservatives and condemned by Democrats, as a cynical ploy to derail President Biden's re-election and promote conspiracy theories. And it provided a microcosm of the larger partisan debates over free speech, which played out in real time as Kennedy and his GOP allies accused Democrats of trying to censor him whenever they objected to the content of his message. I'm being censored here, Kennedy told lawmakers at one point during the nationally televised congressional hearing after Democrats tried to force his testimony behind closed door. Republicans invited Kennedy to appear before their new subcommittee on the weaponization of federal government. They praised his career as an environmentalist and held Kennedy up as a martyr of censorship by an alleged cabal of big government, big tech, and big media as the panel's chairman, Jim Jordan, a top ally of former President Trump because they had to put that in there as well, put it. So that's how NPC News views him. And one from CNN, what's a minute and a half video. RFK Jr. says he's not anti-vax. CNN fact checks that claim. Because God forbid somebody be able to speak on his own behalf.
Anti-vax. I have never told the public avoid vaccination.
Daniel, that's not true.
It's not true at all in two ways, a two-part statement. First of all, this is one of America's most prominent anti-vaxxers. He's an anti-vaxxer, there's no doubt about it. Second of all, he is on record saying to avoid vaccinations. In fact, an NBC News reporter named Brandy Zadrozny found a comment today, or found a comment and tweeted about it today, where Kennedy in 2021, said that he even encounters strangers like on hiking trails and tells them not to vaccinate their babies. Listen to that clip. Wow.
Our job is to resist and to talk about it to everybody. If you're walking down the street, and I do this now myself, which is, I don't want to do, I'm not a busybody. I see somebody on a hiking trail carrying a little baby, and I say to them, better not get them vaccinated. And he heard that from me. If he hears it from 10 other people, maybe he won't do it. Maybe he will save that child.
Pretty clearly anti-vax. Of course, this isn't his only anti-vax comment. He has relentlessly promoted the baseless notion of a link between childhood vaccines and autism. He has attacked COVID-19 vaccines as unsafe, they're safe. He has even asserted in recent comments that the Spanish flu pandemic of 1918 wasn't a flu at all, but was caused by vaccine research. It was not. He's asserted there's strong evidence that HIV was caused by vaccine research. It wasn't. So this is a vehement anti-vaxxer pretending today that he's not anti-vax.
Thank you, CNN, for that completely
IRS
pointless commentary. Shut up, Jake Tapper. Nobody likes you. All right, what else do we have here? Let's talk expungement. The latest thing that has our friends on the left up in a tizzy about what evil Republicans are going to do. Yes. The party of criminal justice reform, and we got to do more and let innocent people go free. Oh my God, they're going to expunge Trump's record. Starting with a report from People magazine. Weighing in the political fray where they don't belong, Speaker McCarthy privately told Donald Trump that House GOP will expunge his impeachments, report claims. I don't know why this banner is up here. I don't know if it's because my ad blocker is there and blocking something out, but it's making it impossible to read the top line of that headline from Virginia Chomley. Speaker McCarthy is pushing back on a report that he claims he recently promised to expunge Trump's 2 impeachments. Politico reported Thursday that McCarthy privately made the promise to Trump after the former president was angered by comments the House Speaker made on a national television last month, when he suggested that Trump may not be the GOP's best presidential nominee in 2024. Well, he's really not, but I challenge you to find me somebody better at this point, too. There's that aspect of things as well. This guy's a product of Chinese laundered yawn. The CNN guy. Who is the bald-headed prophylactic? Let me go back and we'll look at the CNN one again. He talks like a CIA-controlled nugget. Yeah, that I can't say on YouTube. We're going to go back and cut this one.
I have never been
I can't listen to these people again. I don't know who that dude is. Did they say who's even on the panel? I have no idea. No, they don't say who's on the panel. I don't know who that is. He looks like he likes to spend his weekends pretending that he's a taffy apple, though. Can he win the 2024 presidential election? Yeah, he can, McCarthy said in an interview with CNBC last month. The question is he the strongest to win the election? I don't know that answer. Okay, Kevin, bring somebody forward. DeSantis can't stop stepping on his own 2 feet. Tim Scott had to have a focus group tell him if he could run for president or not. Nikki Haley is Lady Bush. Asa Hutchinson is white-haired Bush. Nobody knows who Vivek Ramaswamy is, although he is picking up steam. I will give him that. He would be my second choice at this point. But, okay, bring somebody forward, McCarthy, that's better. I don't disagree with you that I don't think he's a strong candidate. I think he's going to spend us into oblivion if he gets back in, because I'm not on the Trump train, but bring somebody better forward that can get the Trump vote. That's the hard part, is bring someone forward that can get the Trump vote. Because DeSantis tried to run on the classical conservative platform, and number one, got curb stomped in the polls, and number two, will lose the Trump vote. Partially because his followers can't stop insulting the Trump voter, and partially because they left the Democrat Party because it didn't represent them. They are former Democrats. So who, McCarthy, who is the strong candidate? I ask you, I implore you, give me a name, any name. Sources told Politico that Trump told his staff McCarthy needs to endorse me today after he saw the interview. But rather than endorse the former president this early in the 2024 race, the California Republican allegedly made Trump a promise that the House of Representatives would vote to expunge both of his impeachments before lawmakers go into recess in August, which, by the way, is something that's been talked about since impeachment number 2. If I remember correctly, it was actually talked about since impeachment number 1. And impeachment number 1, if I remember correctly, I do believe that McCarthy had said that if they got the House back, they would vote to expunge. Which Adam Schiff, and I didn't put the tweet up there, and I should have, but Adam Schiff got fucking heated over that. He's pissed. I want to see if I can find that quick. I know we're completely derailed off of here. We've only got 15 minutes left of news, and I don't think we're going to get through everything. Yep, it's right there. It's top one. Adam Schiff getting heated. Let me make this perfectly clear. There's no provision in the Constitution allowing you to expunge an impeachment. There's also no provision in the Constitution preventing it either. Just so you know. Donald Trump will always be the first twice impeached president. This is just another hollow sop to Trump from the House Republicans. It sadly won't be the last. Again, it's also not prevented. So, as far as I can tell, if they want to do that, there's nothing that stops them. Expunge away. Speaking to reporters on Capitol on Thursday morning, following the release of the report, McCarthy pushed back, saying, "There is no deal. Deal or no deal? No deal." I don't disagree with you, Mr. Scott. Even with the spending involved, we got a lot of people to expose the hatred that they have. They got a lot of people to turn pro-war because the machine told them to. And it really exposed a lot of people for what they were. Plus, as much as I complain about the spending, the tax cuts were nice. And I can already see where mine are going back up. From Politico, inside McCarthy's secret promise to expunge Trump's record. After House Speaker McCarthy suggested on national television last month that Trump may not be the GOP's best presidential nominee, the former president was furious and wanted the California Republican to rectify the slight immediately. The House GOP leader, who has felt compelled to stay neutral during the primary so as to not box in his own members, wasn't ready to endorse the president, To calm Trump, McCarthy made him a promise, according to a source close to Trump and familiar with the conversation. The House would vote to expunge the 2 impeachments against the former president, and as McCarthy would communicate through aides later the same day, they would do so before the August recess. That vow made reflexively to save his own skin. My God. How do they editorialize like this and sleep at night? Well, I mean, I know the answer to that, but... like, Politico, and everybody knows Politico is a left-wing publication. But they continually editorialize while making a claim that they are a neutral, objective publication. And it's sickening. Several moderate Republicans are loath to revisit Trump's impeachments, especially the charges stemming from the January 6th selfie fest. In fact, though only 10 of their GOP colleagues voted with Democrats to impeach, several more wanted to but were worried that the threats to their offices and families to take the plunge. Yeah, it's more important to stay in office than it is to stick with your convictions, no matter what they are. That tells you all you need to know about Republicans. And I don't agree with the vote to impeach, but I feel so consciously that I need to impeach this man, but I might lose my office. Yeah, Chicken Song and Rumble would be a good thing because these people are fucking cowards, excuse my language. But from Reuters, U.S. Speaker McCarthy denies the deal to expunge the impeachments. There's no deal, McCarthy told a reporter in the Capitol following a report by a political news outlet that he made such an agreement with Trump, the current frontrunner for his party's 2024 presidential nomination. So, I still think it's a good idea, although I'm actually one where I do think that I am an independent voter. I know I've got a very, very right-wing audience, but I am an independent voter. And I do think that that Clinton got railroaded. I think that Clinton should have been impeached, but not for what he got impeached for. And therefore that one should also be expunged. And the more I'm learning about Watergate, because I started researching Watergate, because I think I'm going to be on Overruled with KTZed to talk about Watergate. I think that's what we're going to do is Watergate. But the more I learn about Watergate, the more I think that he got railroaded for that too, and that should be expunged. Posthumously, rather, of course. But Nixon should be expunged for that too. So, deal or no deal, we will see what happens. The fact, by the way, that Clinton got impeached for a process crime and Bush is still impeachment free, that is a travesty to history. That just shows how political this all is. After all that heavy stuff, and before we get to things I like and things that I hate, you want to have some fun? From Fox News, Biden using lower stairs on Air Force One to avoid embarrassing tripping incidents. We are not a serious country, folks. This is not a serious country. From Hannah Penrick. I don't necessarily think that Joe would have a problem, by the way, with stairs. But it's the same thing as when they did the thing with the graduation where you had to come up and say, I'm so fit and fiddle, I'm going to go jog everywhere I go. And he doesn't have the stamina, the ability to do that. If he walks like an 80-year-old man, he'd be fine. He tries to jog up the stairs. He trips. He falls. If he walked up the stairs like a normal person, he'd be fine. President Biden is reportedly using lower stairs than Air Force One to avoid tripping incidents. Politico reported Wednesday, noting an intentional shift in an effort to make the president's travel safer. Politico reported that two of Biden's advisors privately acknowledged an intentional shift to steer the 80-year-old president to lower stairs more often to make his travel easier and limit his possibility for missteps. Again, my big thing with this is he would probably be fine if he didn't just try to jog everywhere. The outlet also highlighted the president was wearing sneakers as opposed to dress shoes recently. Nobody cares. Nobody gives a fuck about what he was wearing on his feet. I know, like, your Harry Sissons and your other paid shills are out there trying to make it, it's gonna be the tan suit scandal. Here's a news flash. Nobody gave a damn about the tan suit either. The sneakers are another concession to comfort necessitated by age, Politico reported. One person close to the president said Biden used to always resist wearing anything other than dress shoes, believing that any other footwear look was unpresidential, but he's eased up on that stance in recent months. Well, also having rubber-soled shoes is going to help him with his tripping problem. Let's do the Marjorie Taylor Greene stuff. Mogwai, are you still here? Yes, Dr. Jill. Marjorie Taylor Greene talking about her insistence on making the entire Hunter hearing about Hunter's penis again. Let's hear what Marjorie has to say.
Here to tell us about the Oversight Committee meeting and many other things. We welcome back. It's a great treat, Marjorie Taylor Greene. Marjorie, thank you for coming on. I know it's a busy day today. You know what? I know you had this new whistleblower was put out there for the first time and so forth, but I'm still hung on these tapes. I mean, to me, Joe Biden's the big fish. Hunter Biden's the little fish. I'm angling for the big fish. I know there are strong allegations. You and I have talked about this before. Is there any new developments on these audio tapes and this Burisma oligarch who allegedly has them?
I haven't heard any new updates on the location of the 17 audio recordings that are legitimate proof that Joe Biden and Hunter Biden both took $5 million bribes from the oligarch that owns Burisma. But today, in my testimony in the Oversight Committee, I showed proof of real crimes committed by Hunter Biden that the Department of Justice won't even prosecute. And Larry, you know what a severe, dangerous situation we're in right now in our country. How can we go after 17 audio recordings that prove the President of the United States took a bribe when he was vice president, when the Department of Justice will not even prosecute his son, Hunter Biden, for paying prostitutes through his law firm and then writing it off as business expenses when he filed his taxes? So things are dire in our country. We have a weaponized government. It's all political, and I think things are very serious.
Marjorie, did the new Mr. X whistleblower, did he corroborate the sex trafficking?
Yes, he did. Mr. Ziegler, he was a great witness. And you know, for everyone watching at home, Mr. Ziegler is a Democrat. Mr. Ziegler is a gay man married to another man. He says that he has received a lot of backlash from members of his own party and has been attacked, his husband as well, which is so wrong. Mr. Ziegler is just committed to telling the truth, but he did corroborate the evidence that I brought today, as he had already said in his testimony to the Ways and Means Committee. So we have that fully in his transcript and in his deposition. But it's really interesting, Larry. This investigation, they started back in November of 2018, and they started it when they were actually doing a side investigation into a foreign amateur porn company, and that's where they found Hunter Biden. They also read the same SARS reports that we read in the Treasury that showed proof of human trafficking through these bank reports, that big banks like JP Morgan, Chase, and many others created these reports saying that Hunter Biden was making payments to known prostitutes and what looked like alleged human trafficking, not only through his personal accounts, but through his law.
All right, I can't listen to you anymore. So again, we go back to the point of Marjorie Taylor Greene coming out and trying to make this all about Hunter's penis, instead of, again, actual crimes that were being discussed throughout all of this. Just in one video, wipes it all away. It's in the laptop is all about Hunter's penis again. Meg Nog joining us over on the Instagram side. Welcome in. Funny meme that I found earlier today that I wanted to share with you guys over here. Let me bring this back over to this screen. Because speaking of Hunter Biden, scarily enough for the libertarian side, Hunter Biden might be the most libertarian person out there, and I think the voluntarist is talking tongue-in-cheek, but talking about making Hunter the 2024 presidential candidate under the libertarian ticket because, as the meme shows, Hunter engaged in civil disobedience against the IRS, ATF, DEA, and DMV at the same time. Guys, I don't know how to feel about this, and the meme is absolutely right. And I can't stand the dude, and that's still correct. How is Hunter more libertarian than half the people that are running the LP right now? Oh wait, we're not turning the music back up yet. We've got another video here. Because Hakeem Jeffries also had something to say about Marjorie Taylor Greene and her lack of decorum on the House floor. New York Representative Hakeem Jeffries.
I mean, the Republican hearings that have unfolded over the last few days and throughout this entire Congress are a malignant clown show that are not designed to address issues that impact the health, the safety, and the economic well-being of the American people, but instead peddle outlandish and out-of-control conspiracy theories. The notion that Republicans would give a congressional platform to Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who peddles anti-Semitic tropes and baseless, xenophobic conspiracy theories, which together are directed at the Jewish community and the Chinese American community, is unbelievable. Which is why you can't take my Republican colleagues seriously when they tell you that they believe in tolerance. Why would you give Robert F. Kennedy Jr. a congressional platform to spew his hatred? Here's the answer. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is a living, breathing, false flag operation. His whole campaign is being run by right-wing political operatives who have one objective: try to take down President Joe Biden.
By the way, people like this call you a conspiracy theorist. Just so you know. Alright, let's do the Chauvin one, and then we will do things that I like and things that I hate. And then we've got a little bit of stuff left over for tomorrow. So the last one that we'll do today comes to us from NBC News. Derek Chauvin asked the U.S. Supreme Court to review conviction in George Floyd's murder. Coming to NBC from the Associated Press, former Minneapolis police officer Derek Chauvin will ask the U.S. Supreme Court to review his conviction for second-degree murder in the killing of Floyd now that the Minnesota Supreme Court has declined to hear the case, his attorney said on Monday. The state's highest court, without comment, denied Chauvin's petition in a one-page order dated Tuesday, letting Chauvin's conviction of 22.5 years stand. Chauvin faces long odds at the U.S. Supreme Court, which hears only about 100 to 150 appeals of the more than 7,000 cases it's asked to review each year. And the editorialization comes again. Floyd, who was black, died on May 25th, 2020. After Chauvin, who was white, pressed a knee on his neck for 9.5 minutes on the street. 9.5 minutes! Outside a convenience store, Floyd tried to pass a counterfeit $20 bill. The bystander video captured Floyd's fading cries of, "I can't breathe!" Floyd's death touched off protests worldwide, some of which turned violent, and forced a national reckoning with police brutality and racism that is still playing out. No, it's not politically convenient for it to be playing out right now. That stopped being politically convenient on January 20th, 2021. Is there some responsibility that Chauvin may have had? I'm actually still up in the air on it. And I'm going to be honest with that. I am still up in the air on whether or not there is some responsibility of what Chauvin had in what happened to Floyd. But second-degree murder? Come the fuck on. There is no way, except for political reasons, that any jury could look at what happened that day and said, yes, he got up and said that he wanted to go kill somebody today. He saw Chauvin and says, I'm going to kill that person today. And again, like I said at the time, he also got, because he got hit with all three of the counts, including Man 2 and Man 3. So he got Murder 2, Man 2, and Man 3. Which Man 3 is unintentional. Full on unintentional. Man 3 and Murder 2 can't exist together because Murder 2 requires malice and Man 3 requires full on negligence. I could honestly, I think it'd be a high bar to clear because of what happened and how much evidence was presented by the independent media to show that there may not be culpability in this. I could see a case for Murder 3, or for Man 3 rather, not Murder 3. I could see a case for it. I don't know if it's a convictable case, but I could see a case for it. But Murder 2, for God's sake. Is YouTube editing? Let me go look at the chat. I'm not editing you on YouTube. And it looks like I just went over and looked at the monitor. Everything's coming through. For me, I don't know if it's coming through for everybody else. Remember, I can see you on here, which takes into effect before YouTube edit goes through. So like if they delete one of your chats, I can still see it, but I looked over on the YouTube side, like on my YouTube monitor, and everything that's here is there for me. Somebody's throwing me hundreds on there. I can see those. Interesting. We will have to address that at some point here if that's going to continue to be a problem. I don't like people being censored on my stuff, by the way. I really don't. Alright, anyway, we've got to finish out here for the day, so that's going to be our Chauvin News, and we're going to finish out the day with things I like and things that I hate for the day. And let's see. Things that I like today. The controversial song. The song that stopped Twitter and the rest of the internet today. I'm of course talking about Try That in a Small Town, Jason Aldean. We're not going to listen to the full song because of copyright issues. And also, I do think that this is at some point going to get the nuke on Twitter. Or on YouTube, rather. I think the song is. But we'll listen to little segments of it. My initial thought on the song, I liked this song, and I actually just listened to this for the first time today. I do not care for Jason Aldean, and the style of music that he's doing, I don't care for. The pop music style country that's coming out here and blurring the lines with rock, I don't care for that. The message I enjoyed. But people are slamming the song as being the most racist thing ever because, well, we'll talk about that in just a minute. But I'm going to do a little bit. There was a segment at the end I really wanted to focus on as well that basically pointed out why it's not a racial thing. It's about standing together with your community, which I think we do need to do more of. I definitely think we need to do more of here. So we'll do a replay. We'll start off for a little bit here, and then we'll skip out to the end, and we'll talk a bit more about this.
Sucker punch somebody on a sidewalk, carjacking old lady at a red light, pull a gun on the owner of a liquor store. You think it's cool, act a fool if you like, cuss out a cop, spit in his face, stomp on the flag and light it up. Yeah, you think you're tough, well try that in a small town.
Alright, that's enough of that to get the message off of that. And the song is, I mean, it's coming together and saying, you know, you go ahead, you get away with this kind of thing in this big city, which you do. It's typically way more what they call liberal in the big city. And this comes from me, who has lived in both the middle of nowhere and the city. But in reality, what the song says, and the message in the song is that when you have people in the smaller town, they'll typically either look out for each other and care for each other when they can. Now, that would be where I would stop this, but I did want to move a little bit towards the end of the song because they actually had a spoken word clip with this as well that I thought was really important to the message. And I think that some of the people, possibly the ones who haven't listened to the song, just know that they're supposed to be outraged by it, completely glossed over. So let's listen.
Around here we take care of our own. You cross that line, it won't take long for you to find out. I recommend you don't try that in a small town.
I might have missed.
These farmers are dropping their own crops for the day. A friend is in need, and they've come to help.
It's what this community and a lot of our communities stand for. Somebody needs some help, you'll get it.
That was the segment that I wanted to talk about with that, is because, yeah, in that kind of, and I live closer to small towns now, in that small town air, you've got the people who are willing to jump up there and help. So I like this song, but not a lot of people did. So some of the reaction to this, Sheryl Crow obviously being one of the first ones to react into this. Because I'm from a small town. Even in small towns, even people in small towns are sick of violence. There's nothing small town or American about promoting violence, which Aldean didn't. You should know better than anyone, having survived a mass shooting. Remember, Aldean was on the stage during the Vegas shooting. This is not American or a small town like, it's just lame. It is a little bit cringe. The message could have been portrayed better. I will come out and say that, especially with better music. And they're even coming out here to bring race into it because of where he chose to do so. Now, I don't know why he chose the Maury County Courthouse. I don't know enough about Aldean's biography to know if this is like his home courthouse, if this is where he's from or whatnot. But Ashton Pittman points out, Jason Aldean shot this at the site where white lynch mob strung Henry Choate up at the Maury County Courthouse in Columbia, Tennessee, after dragging his body through the streets with a car in 1927. Boy, I hate to see what happens when you look up the history of at least 3 of the courthouses in New York, by the way. A few of them in Seattle, because Seattle was coming to be about the time that this stuff was starting to finish out. I can tell you stories about things that have happened in the Madison courthouse and in Milwaukee. You really want to go down that road? That's where Aldean chose to sing about murdering people who don't respect police, which is also not what he sang about. But some actual positive pushback as well, which is why I kept this on things that I like. I would have, because of the pushback, put this directly into things that I hate. But there's been some positivity to this as well. Now, this has also been banned by CMT, this video, which is their right to do so. I would remind you that you are a more conservative, your audience is more conservative on CMT, and they have no problem turning the channel and turning your programming off if you do something that they don't like. Do keep that in mind. You need to keep your values, CMT. Just remember, Target and Bud Light have proven that boycotts work. Travis Tritt sends reality check to Jason Aldean over leftist attempt to silence his song. Damn the social media torpedoes. I don't know why they censored damn, by the way. That one, I didn't get that. Chris Enlow. Travis Tritt offered Jason Aldean a valuable perspective on Wednesday about the leftist campaign to silence his new song. Try that in a small town, without explanation. CMT pulled from its airwaves the new music video for the song, which is 2 months old, by the way. Critics of the song, according to Aldean, say it's pro-lynching, an accusation Aldean denied. What did Travis say? The 60-year-old country singer reminded Aldean on Wednesday that social media does not represent reality, urging him not to cave to pressure from the outrage mob. I would also like to remind my friend Jason Aldean that Twitter and social media in general is not a real place. The views shared by many accounts on this platform are not actually representative of the vast majority of the population of this country, Travis Tritt said. Say what you want to say and be who you want to be, he added. Damn the social media torpedoes. Hear, hear. And even music icon Pat Boone backs Aldean, says leftists are infected with moral sickness over hate for Try That in a Small Town. Iconic singer Pat Boone is backing embattled country music star Jason Aldean amid left-wing hate for his Try That in a Small Town song. And Boone told Fox News' Jesse Waters that the woke crowd's behavior shows that they're infected with a moral sickness. Boone told Waters that country music has gotten sick over the opposition to Aldean's anti-woke song. I can't believe it's country music, he said, noting that the songs of another country music star, Trace Adkins, have been very supportive of opposing America's enemies. What we're not taking into account is that many of our enemies are in our own house and our own streets. So, based? Well, I'm glad to see some of the stuff that's come up here. A couple of other things, and we'll do some things that I hate. Fox Business, proving that the markets work. Ford cuts prices on F-150 Lightning truck. From Joe Toppy. Ford is lowering the price of the F-150 Lightning electric pickup due to an increased plant capacity and falling costs of raw materials for batteries. No, they're decreasing the price of the F-150 Lightning because nobody's buying the goddamn thing. The Detroit automaker is also internally scaling production to offer its customers a cheaper electric vehicle as the pricing war between Ford and rivals like Tesla and General Motors pick up steam. Ford said Monday the final upgrades at its Rouge Electric Vehicle Center in Michigan will lead to greater availability of a built-to-order truck as early as October at a manufacturer's suggested retail price closer to initial Lightning pricing. The updated MSRP for the Pro model, its lowest price electric pickup, will be $49,995, down from $59,974. The Lariat's 510A's MSRP will drop from $69,995 from $76,974. So a couple things that they're doing with this is they are trying to manipulate the price point, because the gas F-150 with a V8 is still high 50s. I believe to get the truck the way that I want right now is 57. So it's going to be enticing, but the other side of it is they need to move them because the government says they need to sell X amount. And people aren't buying them. People who want a pickup to work with are preferring to stick with the old style availability. Now, I will never tell you, don't drive an EV. I know some of you will tell me, don't drive an EV. I will never tell you not to drive an EV. If you want it, if you've got the money for it, if you think it'll be a positive impact on your life, spend your money however you see fit. I will not own one. And I think the market is starting to show where people don't want to have these things either. So that's one of the things that I like with that. And the Cybertruck, of course. All right. And the last thing, no, two more things that I like, and then we'll do some things that I hate. Free Thinks is a fusion rocket designed to travel 500,000 miles an hour. Is under construction. It could cut the time needed to reach Mars in half. Will we go to Mars in my lifetime? I don't know. I think it's a possibility. But I like the fact that there's innovation. Still. British aerospace startup is working on a fusion rocket it says will slash the amount of time it takes astronauts to travel to Mars and beyond, allowing humans to explore places that are currently out of reach. Long-term exposure to microgravity, cosmic radiation can cause serious health issues for astronauts. That means NASA needs to keep its future Mars missions short enough that astronauts come home healthy. Less than 4 years should work. Using our current rocket propulsion technology, though, is going to take 7 months. Just to get astronauts to Mars, factor in the amount of time to get back to Earth, and nearly a third of a Mars astronaut's mission is just going to be dedicated to the commute. Yeah, when I had an hour commute, it was like that too, by the way. The UK-based aerospace company Pulsar Fusion believes it can cut the time it takes to reach Mars in half by harnessing the power of nuclear fusion, the same process that fuels the sun. Humanity has a huge need for faster propulsion in our growing space economy, and fusion offers 1,000 times the power of the conventional ion thrusters currently used in orbit, said CEO Richard Dinan. And they go in to talk about how fusion works. I'm actually, and not even just for space travel at this point, we're at a point where we need to start exploring fusion. I mean, we've got nuclear fission power, which, if we expanded that, would take care of our energy needs for the next decade. But fusion is the future. The only problem is that it requires a large amount of heat, which for the aerospace company to be able to build the rocket that's powered on fusion and keep it cool enough to keep people in the rocket, because fusion has so much heat that's associated with it, would also be a next step for powering our nuclear reactors. Putting nuclear reactors in cities across the country and producing, because fusion power is massive. That's why the sun is powered by it. So this is not just a matter of getting to Mars. If true, and I've yet to see any working prototypes, but if true, this could reshape the way that we do energy in this country. We'll see. This is something I'm going to continue to watch with great eagerness. And the last thing that I like, just this is not because of any particular problem of space junk or anything else, but basically for the memes. Mystery cylinder on Western Australia beach, likely space junk, authorities say, from Chris Lau. A mystery object that washed ashore on Australia's western coast sparked a flurry of local excitement and speculation over its origin is most likely space junk, police said on Tuesday. Since it has turned up on a beach in Greenhead, a coastal town 155 miles north of Perth, the copper-colored cylinder has drawn curious local residents eager to catch a glimpse of the unidentified object. Speculation also erupted online when people posting a host of theories about where it might have come from. The Western Australia Police Force sent a statement Tuesday the item is believed to be space debris, echoing similar comments from the country's space agency, which was working on the same hypothesis. Police were initially cautious, throwing a cordon around the object and telling locals to keep away. But in a new update on Tuesday, police said an analysis by the Department of Fire and Emergency Services and Chemistry Center of Western Australia found the object to be safe, posing no current risk to the community. And I haven't seen an update on this, but I believe that they either are planning on opening it or did open it. But a reminder of the fact that with the fact that it's washed ashore and it looks like this and they want to go back and open it, there's really only one thing that can come out of this. Those of you versed in 90s lore already know where I'm going with this.
After 10,000 years, I'm free! It's time to conquer Earth!
There's really only one thing that can come out of that. Let's be realistic. Alright, now let's do a couple things that I hate. From Fox News to start with, New York City agrees to pay Black Lives Matter protesters $13 million in new mass arrest settlement. Nothing like rewarding people for burning up your city. From Lawrence Richard. New York City will give more than $13 million to more than 1,000 protesters arrested or interacting with police during the 2020 BLM protests, following a civil rights lawsuit settlement filed in Manhattan federal court on Wednesday. Experts said the settlement, which allows the city to avoid a trial, would be among the most expensive payouts. For mass arrests, it still needs to be approved by a judge before it's finalized. The lawsuit focused on 18 protests that erupted in New York City in the week following St. George and his death, hallowed be his name. According to attorneys for the plaintiffs, eligible persons can receive $9,950 in compensation, which will be going back into the local big box store. Yeah, this is definitely going to incentivize people to act better while they're out on the street. Especially in situations like this. San Francisco Walgreens now resorts to chaining their freezers to stop shoplifters in crime-ridden city. Swiping pizza and ice cream 20 times a day as another branch completely boards up its windows. From Jim Gordon for DailyMail.com, theft has become so bad in San Francisco that some stores are now padlocking shut their freezers and tying metal chains to ensure doors remain closed overnight. Video shot by one potential shopper at local Walgreens in the city sees aisle after aisle of products locked away behind perspex and glass, out of reach of thieves. Even lower value items such as toothpaste and tissues are kept under lock and key, such as the rampant theft that's been occurring in many of the city's pharmacies and supermarkets. How do you keep a business open like that? And I understand where some of these companies are being pressured because of food deserts and medicine deserts and things like that, but like, how do you keep going knowing that you have to lock up frozen pizza? At what point do you just pull the plug and say, enough is enough? It doesn't appear that it ever comes, but More things that I hate from Just the News. Fed's borrowing over $5 billion per day. $5 billion per day as programs face insolvency. From Casey Harper. Budget groups continue to release dire forecasts for the explosive growth of the U.S. national debt. The U.S. Treasury reported $1.4 trillion deficit so far 9 months into fiscal year 2023. 3 quarters into the fiscal year, we're borrowing an astounding $5.1 billion a day, said Maya McGuinness, which is why they suspended it and didn't set a hard limit. President of the Committee for a Responsible Federal Budget. If that isn't a sign we need a wake-up call, maybe the fact that the deficit for this fiscal year is now larger than all of last year's deficit and there's still 3 months to go. Thank you, Thomas Massey, for voting to suspend the debt ceiling, by the way. The U.S. Congressional Budget Office released a report earlier this year projecting the national debt will be nearly twice as large as the U.S. economy in 30 years. Well, they've been sounding that horn since the 90s. I think that's hyperbolic still. But $5.1 billion a day. By the end of 23, the federal debt held by the public equals 98% of the GDP. The report said debt then rises in relation to GDP. It surpasses historical high in 2029 when it reaches 107% of GDP and climbs to 181% by 2053. Thank you for selling our children's futures down the river, Thomas Massey. Couple more things that I hate, and we'll head out of here for the night. We'll get through these real quick because I'm getting really hungry in a hurry. Universal under investigation after trimmed trees that shaded SAG-AFTRA protesters. Yes, this is a real thing. The LA City Controller's Office is investigating after an NBC Universal severely trimmed a row of trees outside its studio where members of SAG-AFTRA were picketing, company executives eliminating shade during a searing heat wave. Trees are essential to providing Angelenos with significant environmental and public health benefits, especially during a heat wave, LA City Controller Kenneth Maya wrote on Twitter. Last week, SAG-AFTRA's 160,000 actors and other media personalities joined 11,000 Writers Guild of America members who've been on the picket line since May as negotiations between the union and Alliance of Motion Pictures and Television Producers, which represent the studios, broke down, but the excessive heat in parts of the country has led strike organizers to caution participants to stay hydrated and use sunscreen. Earlier this week, SAG-AFTRA cut short their Disney and Warner Brothers pickets, citing extreme heat in LA. This is one of the reasons that I dislike the corporate union. Again, if 2 or 3 friends or the entire work staff of a place want to get together, pull their money together outside of the company's payroll department, and hire a lawyer and say, hey, if one of us gets fired, we all quit, or things like that, that's on them. But these big corporate unions who expect that while you are sitting here preventing NBC Universal Studios from conducting business and earning a revenue on their property, that they have to make some accommodation for you, that's a load of shit. Tough it up if you want to make your voices heard through the corporate union. Your forefathers did it. Hell, my dad did it for years in a corporate union. He toughened it up. He didn't expect the plant to go back out and meet his demands in the middle of the strike. He expected them to meet the demands after the strike. But to come out and say, hey, are you comfortable? No, that's not what your union forefathers did. Toughen up, Buttercup. If you want to make a statement, be uncomfortable. From WGN Chicago, jury awards $800,000 to Florida family who claimed daughter was disfigured by hot McDonald's nugget. From Sarah Phillips, how many times has this happened at McDonald's? I remember the first big one. The very first big one that we had where it was the hot coffee. You guys remember that? Those of you are still here? I know that we're going a little bit long. And of course it's in Broward, because where the fuck else would it be? The Broward County jury deliberated for just 2 hours over how much the family should receive, according to WTBJ. The decision comes 2 months after the jury found McDonald's and the franchise owner liable for the girls' burns, but not negligent. Now, if you're actually disfiguring people, McDonald's, you gotta step up your safety game. Because this is, that I can think of off the top of my head, the second major incident that you have involving the heat of one of your products. Yes, the coffee was kept hotter than most coffees were kept at the time. I think it still is. I think they keep their coffee 30 degrees hotter than most other coffee places do. But seriously, McDonald's, you gotta figure something else out here. The parents said their daughter suffered emotional distress and will continue to need medical care in the future. Apparently it was because the nugget got wedged between her thigh and the seatbelt. The lawsuit says the nuggets were unreasonably and dangerously hot and unfit for human handling. Which would be a first for McDonald's, because I've never had a McDonald's chicken nugget that was warmer than lukewarm. Where is this magical McDonald's where I can actually get a hot chicken nugget? Because I kind of want to go there. Although I probably can't get a hot one there anymore. And the last thing that I hate today comes to us from CNN. Federal judge rules Oregon gun law doesn't violate Second Amendment. Boo! A reminder, all gun laws violate the Second Amendment. From Michelle Watson. A federal judge in Oregon ruled on Friday that a new state gun law does not violate U.S. Constitution, keeping one of the toughest gun laws in the country in place. U.S. District Judge Karine Immergut ruled that Ballot Measure 114's restrictions on large capacity magazines that hold more than 10 rounds are constitutional because these magazines are not commonly used for self-defense. Bullshit. I don't have my full armory here with me. Every armament that's in this particular 500 square foot paradise holds more than 10 rounds from the factory. That's not a modification, that's not an extended mag. The mag that came with, from brand new, is more than 10 rounds. It varies how many they are, but even if LCMs are protected by the Second Amendment, BM 114's restrictions are consistent with this nation's history and tradition of regulating uniquely dangerous weapons, features of weapons and firearms to protect public safety. But that's not uniquely dangerous, that's not even unique. The law strengthens background checks and prohibits the sale and transfer of ammunition, magazines holding more than 10 rounds. It also closes the Charleston loophole, which allows gun purchases to move forward by default after 3 days, even if background check has not been completed, violating your Second Amendment rights. The law also requires state police to complete background checks on individuals before a gun sale or transfer is made. Well, this one's going to SCOTUS. And I hope it does. With Bruin out there. And this is a federal court, by the way, that's saying that this can can stand. So let's go ahead and see what happens when this gets into DC. I think we're ready for a ruling on this. Yeah, if they have a list, then you get effed with. And with that, we are done. We're out of here. Long show tonight, but definitely got some stuff done. I like doing things I like and things that I hate. And we had some good conversation going at the beginning of the show too, so definitely. Do you think Biden will institute the draft? He actually has to get into an escalated U.S. conflict first, which I don't see that happening in the current iteration. Crabgrass Baby coming in at the very end of the show. Oh, I'm on multiple platforms, Crabgrass. I've got Rumble going, I've got YouTube. So, he's called up the reserves already. Yes, I am aware of that dual helix. But we'll see what happens there. Alright. We are going to head out of here for the night. Let's throw some outro music up. Where's my outro music? There it is. There it is. Apparently Trump has like 3 hours to respond to that letter if he hasn't already. That'll probably be on, because yeah, I do remember that was on Thursday. And I didn't see anything about it today, so yeah, he might not do this. I don't know. We'll find out what's happening with that. That'll probably be top story tomorrow. That'll be interesting. Former president fugitive of the law. We'll be watching. I'll watch that throughout the day tomorrow. That'll be fun. But with that being fun, we're gonna head out of here for the night. Man, I am super hungry too. So we're gonna be done. We're gonna be out of here. Thanks everybody who came by and chatted, and everybody who is here. We do this 6 p.m. Well, it's been late because I've been working late this week, but we do this 6 p.m. Central Time every weekday night. We check in with the headlines, we see what's happening there, and I send you off on Friday to your weekend of having fun and enjoying your friends and family. But come back and join us here tomorrow for more news, more headlines, more contemporary. If you're just catching up now, we are on Spotify. You can join the Discord. You can check us out live, youtube.com/jhedger101, where all the replays will be. Rumble, if you prefer Rumble as well. And see the entire backlog of this program, or listen to it if you prefer to take it on the go. Tonight's episode will be up in a couple hours. I do have to go take a shower at some point here yet tonight. So we'll be back here tomorrow for more news, more headlines, more contemporary. Take care, have a good night, hug your family, get some dinner, and until tomorrow, I am Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. Take care.